Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Miss, and today I'm actually going to be showing you 5 really high level moves in order to seriously increase your win rate, potentially make you top win a regional or even a YCS, because these are really high level plays that I can see a lot of good players completely either just missing, avoiding, or just doing incorrectly because they were not not aware of these interactions. So before I start, friendly reminder to like and subscribe. Of course, it motivates me a lot to keep making videos like these. I actually have a lot more in stock, by the way, just letting you know. So yeah, if you subscribe, you're always going to be the first one to be notified about this greatness. But yeah, okay, whatever. Enough bragging. Let's actually get into it. So in case you're playing a deck like Altergeist and you have a card like Personal Spoofing with an Altergeist monster, you know, some people might be like, well, whatever. If my opponent has MST or Cyclone, there is nothing I can really do about it if they have it. But you can kind of play around it. Let's just say your opponent ends on no back row, not a single back row, but he still holds cards in hands when he actually passes turn. Usually people, they just always spoofing on end phase. They don't even think about the potential drawbacks. What are they going to be scared of? Ash? No, I mean, you can Ash anytime, but what you really have to be scared about is someone holding a quick play like a back row move like MST, Cyclone Twin, and stuff like that, because obviously if they use it prior and you chain spoofing to that, you still get your Faker access and all of that. So if pretty much this is a red flag telling you, okay, if my opponent has no back row, then he might have a card like Cyclone. If he has one back row, maybe now you can actually start arguing. But honestly, if I play a deck like Altergeist and my opponent doesn't set a single back row, I actually hold the spoofing until my own turn. And also another important thing is don't use spoofing on your main phase. Use it on your draw phase or standby, because that way when you summon that multi-faker, it is actually immune to Effect Veiler, because Effect Veiler is only usable on main phase only. So yeah, this is just the safest way to play and successfully resolve your personal spoofing. Absolutely magnificent, but this is nothing. Let's get into tip number 2. Alright, tip number 2 is actually really similar. Kind of the same logic with don't really do something on end phase unless you know for a fact that you can either counter your opponent's counter to you, or that even if he counters you in like the worst case scenario way, it's not the end of the world. You can kind of deal with it. So Buster, you know, everybody always tags him out on end phase. They don't really try to think. But there was once where I played against a really high IQ player who, I don't know, maybe he just predicted that I had the Called by the Grave. I never showed him any copies of Called by the Grave, and he was never tagging out with Buster. Never, ever. And every single turn I was like, please, for the love of God, please tag out with Buster, because then I'll be able to use Called by the Grave. Obviously, if I set my cards, then he's going to either banish them and I won't be able to play, or he's going to be like, well, whatever, you have less cards in hand, it makes sense for me to tag out. And obviously, I wasn't able to set any other cards. Again, in the same logic as the Altergeist play in combo number 1, well, rather tip number 1, don't really try to tag out unless you have something, like I said, to protect yourself. So in this situation, I actually had Ghost Bell, so it wasn't the end of the world. But if you don't have Ghost Bell, what can you really use to counter a card like Called by the Grave? Well, during your opponent's turn, there's Artifact Lancia, I guess. I guess that makes sense. So it's not that bad, but really just instead of giving a window of opportunity for your opponent to win out of your very small little plays like that, just so you regret it later on, just try to put all the eggs in your basket. I mean, not really, but actually put them in a lot of different baskets. So if one basket gets destroyed, you actually don't cry, and it's not the end of the world for you. Jesus, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Anyways, let's get into pro play number 3. All right, so this one I can see a lot of people messing up completely, and it's a bit more in depth than you might think, because there's actually room for arguing right here. But for the most part, I don't really like using a card like Ash or just hand traps in general when my opponent has an empty board, and I know for a fact that he plays a combo deck, because combo decks can definitely play Gamma, as it's a really good hand trap against the opponent and actually it can protect them. But there are certain decks that don't really play Gamma. For example, if someone goes Desires, banish 10, there's even a chance that he banishes the driver, so ashing the Desires is a bit safer. But let's just say he's playing a 60 card deck. It's a high likelihood that he's playing Dragon Link, and if you actually look at metagame breakdowns and stuff, a lot of people are actually playing Gamma in Dragon Link. So with that knowledge in mind, just kind of tell yourself, would ashing a card like Chaos Space make sense? Now, if you have a card like Gamma, you can actually, well, I mean, obviously, you can actually Gamma their Gamma, but is it really worth it? Because look at this, man. All you're really doing is just trading 2 for what? I mean, 2 for 2, I guess you can say, because if he discarded a card like Absol Router, he gets the Rocket Tracer back, and to make matters worse, Chaos Space has an effect in the graveyard where you can banish it, recycle back a dragon, well, I mean, a card from banished into the deck and draw 1 card. So he didn't have to waste his normal summon. He still has probably a bunch of plays left at his disposal, and you had to give up 2 hand traps just for that? I don't know, it doesn't really sound too great for me. It's not the best value, so if you have Ash and Gamma, it's pretty much a turn skipper. You can hold your Ash for like the LP, and then if he tries to go like Appaloosa Negate, you can Gamma the Appaloosa. So instead of just trying to waste all of your hand traps very, very early on, try to hold them for later on, even if it's a really good combination of cards like Ash and Gamma, because I can promise you that if you don't time them well, your opponent will be able to play through them, or just, I guess, around them or whatever. But that's it for this one. Let's get into the next one. Alright, so how many materials can a Zeus even have in a deck like Eldritch? Well, a lot. I'm going to show you how. So let's just say you have your 2 level 5 trap monsters. You can actually make the Pleiades. So this is, well, this would end up being a 3 material Zeus. So you'd be able to use the effect 1.5 times. So yeah, obviously it's rounded down, so 1 time, but then you actually upgrade into Constellar Ptolemy M7. At this point, the Ptolemy has 3 materials, meaning that the Zeus would have 4, so now you can use it twice. And wait, there's more! There's also Gaia Dragon, the Thunder Charger, so now the Zeus would actually have way more materials. It would have 5, the first Zeus, so that's pretty nice. And by the way, a fun fact, the Zeus doesn't have to be instantly Xyz summoned on top of the monster that battled, just on top of any Xyz monster the turn you battled. So in other words, if you want to max out damage on a direct attack, I suggest attacking with Ptolemy M7 and then on Mean Feast 2, overlaying for the Gaia Dragon and then the Zeus. Or one thing that you can do is if you want to deal piercing damage, definitely go into the Gaia Dragon so you actually deal damage that way instead of just attacking a monster in defense that just doesn't make your opponent lose anything. But yeah, so you're going to summon your Zeus. This is, like, as you can clearly see, 5 materials. But don't worry, because technically even this Zeus can get another material. And actually I lied, it's not this Zeus, it's another Zeus on top of this Zeus. So basically you just have to battle, and the next turn, well, there we go, man. You can even Xyz summon Zeus on top of Zeus. So there we go, there we have it. We have 6 material Zeus in a deck like Eldritch without even any of the Zodiac cards. So it's pretty fantastic. But yeah, anyways, that's it for this one. Let's get into the 5th and final tip. Alright, this is a 10 billion IQ move that, again, I can see a huge amount of people messing up. And if you get Lanciad and a kind of situation like this happens, it is literally the end of the world. You instantly lose the game on the spot, and you can just quit Yu-Gi-Oh! Or just reconsider life or something, because it is legit the end of the world. And look at this. So you're going to go Meltdown to search for Alistair, and ironically, this is already a misplay. If you can see why, well, now you have 2 Alistairs in your hand, and you might be like, well, how can this be a bad thing? Well, look at this, man. Look at this. You're gonna go normal summon Alistair, get the invocation, and then you're gonna go Majestus Maiden, whatever. And now what happens if you go invocation? Your opponent is obviously going to use Lancia, right? Well, this is the catch. Now you used invocation, you are forced to commit to the invocation. You can't just say, oh no, sorry, I don't want to use invocation anymore. I don't know, your Lancia made me change my mind. No. You have to resolve it as much as it possibly can. And because of that, since there is a legal way for you to actually resolve invocation, by using the Alistair in hand and the Ash in hand, remember that you cannot use monsters on the field or graveyard since they would have to get banished, well, you're going to be forced to waste these cards completely. So look at this. Not only do we make a fusion monster that we don't even want to make, this is against our will, but on top of that, we wasted the Alistair and an Ash? What? The Alistair was supposed to be a 1-card Merkaba, and just because of the fact that we used Meltdown to search a useless Alistair, we actually completely lost out on everything. We actually wasted 3 cards. This invocation is not even a recursion card because we have no banished Alistair. We only have 1 Alistair left in the deck, meaning that if that Alistair gets top 2, well, we're going to be forced to hard draw the 2nd and final invocation if we want to get even a single form of engine started, and we don't even have a single interruption interruption, and we wasted 2 interruptions actually. 2 for the price of just 1 Lancia. And Lancia is in everyone's side deck, and Invoked is a pretty popular engine as well. So the only way to pretty much fix that, because you can't really say, oh yeah, whatever, if my opponent plays Lancia, I know there's a way to counter it like inherently. There's obviously no way to really counter Lancia. If you get Lancia, it's sad, but you can't do anything about it. However, the one way you don't really lose to this is by not using the Meltdown, just having 1 Alistair. Make sure you never have more than 1 Alistair in your hand. So when you fuse, there is literally not a single possibility of the invocation forcing you to use the Alistairs from your hand. So it's just going to fizzle, resolve with no effect, and it's not going to be the end of the world. You still keep your Ash, you still keep your Meltdown, and then after that you can use Meltdown, search your Alistair, and you just didn't have to waste anything. So much better. And again, I see so many people who mess up like that. So I really hope you guys were able to learn a thing or two with all these 5 tips, honestly. If you guys have any comments, feedback, or anything, please let me know in the comment section below. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because it motivates me a lot to keep making videos like these. That's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.